what I think happens is that people start to target the wrong capacity. Most people go off of what their exercise capacity is, and most people's exercise capacity is actually higher than their energy and higher than their tissue capacity.
Welcome back to Past Your Prime, the podcast for active adults balancing training, rehab, and real life. You might be past your prime, but you can always push your performance. That's PYP two ways, baby.
That's actually very clever. He just came up with that right off the dome
2 days ago. Big brain here.
Yeah.
All right.
Huge brain. All right.
We're here for episode 25. Today we plan to talk about the 3 capacity model and how to avoid invisible setbacks in training and rehab. Mine are quite visible, so I'm interested to talk about.
Most people find
today.
Most people find them invisible. He finds them obvious, and it's more like yours is more like, I think some of these people, it's like there's a hidden aspect, like their engine's not running well, right? Yours is more you ran into a brick wall.
Yeah.
You're like the
rear view mirror is gone. Because I never look back. I'm always pushing forward.
He's always hammering forward.
What a metaphor.
You pushing your performance.
I'm on it today.
So,
anyway.
I gave a talk this past weekend to a group of people who are either going through cancer or cancer survivors. That group of individuals, I mean, God, they are inspiring. First, that they're pushing themselves, and it's like a very active community that we presented for. And these individuals often deal with these types of setbacks, and it's this 3 capacity model is one of the things that I've developed and worked with these individuals through before. But what's interesting is I find it very useful for people who aren't just having cancer, coming back from cancer. I find it really useful in people who are struggling to get active for the first time, people who have pain syndromes, individuals who seem to keep on getting constant recurrent setbacks.
Alex.
So basically, I'm doing this for Alex.
Okay. So we've both seen it. Why is it that I'm going to talk about me, but we can talk about people in general, like have a great workout and then 2 days later, like I feel like I can't even jump anymore.
Okay. Well, what I think happens is that people start to target the wrong capacity. And what I mean by capacity, I think everybody has 3. You have energy, which we typically monitor based off of your fatigue and your fatigue rating or fatigue response to activity. You have tissue capacity, which we look at pain or a delayed pain response based off of activity, so a tissue related response. And then 3, you have an exercise capacity, which is the one that most people focus on. That'd be like his vertical jump, the amount of weight that you're able to lift, how will you balance, how will you just actually perform in your daily activities.
And how do the invisible setbacks kind of weigh into those 3?
Well, the idea is that whichever one is the lowest is the one you have to target with your training. And so, for example, most people go off of what their exercise capacity is, and most people's exercise capacity is actually higher than their energy and higher than their tissue capacity. So for you, for example, it's literally his physicality, his previous training history, his athleticism is what constantly makes it so he gets hurt, because he doesn't get feedback from his body that, hey, this is too hard. Like, it actually probably feels quite easy, or actually feels really good in the moment, but his body doesn't have a good response to it because his tissue capacity is lower than his exercise capacity.
Yeah, I mean, I get through it in the moment. Like I'm dunking. Okay, whatever, my knee hurts a little bit. I can still dunk, so I'm fine. And then, I wake up the next morning again. I'm a crippled old man.
So we call that a tissue response level. It's something our team has really been working on and like really clarifying with patients that we see. But that would be a level 4.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
The higher the level, the better.
The better, right? Level 6 is where we want everybody to live, which is...
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was the opposite.
Yeah. No, but 3 and 4, level 1 is that it hurts during the workout. You don't want to have pain during the workout if you're really focused on tissue capacity. So the fact that I said 4, but I was kind of lying. He was actually 1 because it hurt when he was exercising. Level 2 is that it hurts at the end of the workout. You've had that before, right? Like where you're hitting a workout and then it feels worse later.
Yeah.
Level 3 is you start to hurt at the end of the day or later in the day after the workout. Level 4 can be anywhere between 12 hours, so like the next morning, to maybe 72 hours. So really severe delayed onset muscle soreness. That would be a level 4. Level 5, you hurt at the end of a cumulative week of stress that you apply to your tissue. And then level 6, which is normal, is at the end of a program, which most people skip, which is recovery weeks. It's because we all need recovery after you tear your body down. The whole idea that you're breaking your muscle down and you're breaking tissues down so that your body heals and becomes back stronger. If you do that, you have to have time to recover, or else your tissue capacity gets run into the ground.
Based on that explanation, I'd say I'm a level 5 then.
It could be 5.
I think and the reason being, like, playing volleyball consistently, had my dunk sessions. I've got my friend at the gym that makes me jump over the highest tire in the world every time I go there. And so I was getting way more extra max effort jumps. He does it like easy and gets like 6 inches over it. I'm like barely squeaking by and almost killing myself every time I jump over this thing, but it's pushing my performance. So I keep doing it. That said, at the cumulative end of this like week and a half, 2 weeks of extra jumping, my knee is blown up.
Yeah. And that's the mistake that I basically want to go through today, and I want to hit energy capacity mistakes, tissue capacity mistakes, and performance capacity mistakes, and how you how you dig into figuring out like which one's actually your biggest issue.
So let's jump into those three a little bit deeper. I guess in terms of energy, I think you had mentioned sleep. Does like nutrition play into that? What goes into the energy bucket?
Well, the first one is, if you had, let's just say we take a hypothetical person, if somebody comes in and they tell me that the issue is not that they hurt, the issue is that they're so tired they can't do physical activity, that's when I start to look at fatigue as the biggest issue. You also look at fatigue if somebody comes in with a pain syndrome. A lot of pain syndromes are so tightly linked that you have to really respect that fatigue may be their biggest issue, because fatigue can also drive pain syndromes. But what I look for is they can't do the workout. Like when they come back in, they'll tell me they didn't do their exercise and it's because they were just too tired. Or they did a workout and it felt fine during the workout, but then the next day they feel like they couldn't get out of bed. Right. Or I feel like I had to take 2 or 3 extra naps because my body just felt wrecked. Those are signs that your energy capacity is actually the issue. And oftentimes, if it's the one that's too low, which we're going to pull up a graphic really quick. So for those people at home, on one side of the graphic, we have what's called daily activity intensity. It's like how hard the actual day is. On the bottom, we have capacity. And when we're looking at energy, it's the one in the purple, but it's below the line of what you have to do on a daily basis. So let's say you typically are doing work at a moderate level, like what you would rank as moderate, but your energy level at capacity is below that, which can be due to a variety of reasons, whether poor sleep, poor nutrition, not drinking enough water. It could be because of medications you're on. It could be because of the treatment. Like the group I just gave the talk to with cancer related fatigue, one of the issues is it's just that they're going through chemo or radiation, or they just had surgery to remove something. I mean, those are terrible procedures and they hammer you.
It's not a quick recovery.
No, and it's
Yeah.
like there could be, I mean, very clear medical reasons, but there could also be depression, so mental, physical fatigue. There could be tons of other stresses that you're having to deal with. So things that you think of like a new job, any major life changes, all of those could impact you. So fatigue is typically not one issue. It's normally numerous issues. But what happens that I see people hyper focus on sleep.
I'm sleep training my baby right now with my lovely wife, and I hope that my sleep will improve even further. I track my sleep through my watch, and I feel bad because my wife was like, "How do you have such good sleep scores?" I'm like, I just sleep through anything. So,
I don't have to wake up.
yeah.
You know, she showed me a picture of the baby like playing in bed,
Yeah.
and you were literally asleep right beside the baby. I
I
still
like
think that's
wake up and
funny.
say hi, and I'm like, I'm back to sleep.
Oh, that's awesome. But I guess the part that I always like to think of is if you feel crushed after a workout, like during the workout, it feels almost too hard, right? Like, like where it's the rest of your day is wrecked. There's times where that type of fatigue is way too much.
Yeah.
And the idea is just to recognize that if you're feeling crushed after every single workout, or you feel like you have we call it a crash, if you're having a crash after every workout or during the workout, you have a fatigue issue. And there might be numerous reasons, but it could be that you're pushing too hard in the workout and you need to bring the workout down. But it could also be one of those other reasons, like we talked about nutrition, lean. It
Sounds
could
like
be water,
stress.
stress.
Yeah.
And you can dig into those. And some of the tools I was giving this group, there's a multidimensional fatigue scale that you can do. We have a tool we'll put up on our website that you guys can download. We have a checklist for you to go through, and you can look and see if any of these things that we know are related to people reporting high fatigue. You can, if you check it, that means it's probably something you want to get investigated.
Yeah.
Right. So if you have a new medication that you just got put on and all of a sudden you feel crushed, the medication could be actually a huge piece of what's causing it.
Yeah. I feel like my system has prevented me from having too many energy issues. I work out late at night generally, so I'm just going to bed anyway. So like I don't experience a crash, or it actually helps me go to sleep. But I'd imagine for somebody that's new getting into working out or getting into exercise, this could play a pretty major role.
It could play a huge role. And this is again where we'll do the fatigue response level. So if in the workout you get crushed, that's level 1. Level 2 is if after the workout, like at the end of the workout, you feel crushed and you can't get through it. Level 3 is later in the day you feel crushed and you have a crash. Level 4 is the next day you have a crash. And then at the end of the week, which I think is the most common for working professionals, you get to the end of the week and then you feel hammered for the rest of the weekend. That's actually still an issue in my opinion. Like I think that you should be able to get to the end of the week and you still have some level of energy. I struggle with that myself. And there's things that you can do and look at to prevent it. I know that there's certain weeks where I make very specific mistakes that if I don't make those mistakes, like scheduling patients too late, for example, right? That's a huge fatigue issue for me.
I just drink caffeine.
Yeah.
Works for
Overemphasis
me.
on caffeine. Yeah. But that's a big one, and your workouts can actually can cause it to get worse. And so you don't want your workouts to actually be the cause of a crash.
Yeah. Not an issue for me currently, but I think, for beginners, it could be.
If you do have that as an issue, though, seriously, go to our website, and we will have all these things that you can totally download and use to assess where you're at fatigue wise.
Cool. The next one is tissue capacity. So we've talked about this in several pods before.
Yeah, the tissue capacity one we've talked about, it's a general way for you to assess if your body is handling the stresses and load that you put on it. I know now that we've gone through it a lot, it sounds almost basic. I still think it is. It's so complicated if you don't know in the workout, like if the workout doesn't hurt. For example, your knee was hurting, so there were some signals, but sometimes you don't have that.
Right.
Right. And that's kind of my thoughts is you still have to monitor what your response is. And I think using the tissue response levels again, the 1 through 6 is really helpful because you're actually doing really well. Whereas before you were having it and he's absolutely level 1 on everything. Something was hurting during every workout. And now it's more like the next day, maybe a end of the week.
Well, and it's one of those things where, a year ago when you related back to exercise capacity, like I was getting sore after every workout, getting delayed onset muscle soreness, so on and so forth. And now I rarely actually get sore from a workout. I might have sore knees or sore joints, but like my muscles generally don't get sore, and I try to push them to get sore. But I think maybe the exercise, tissue capacity, and energy all linking together have got me to a place where those capacities are high enough to where I don't have a lot of general muscle soreness.
Yeah, so your muscles handling it well. So
Yeah.
go back to like the ideas that we've had around the tissues that cause different types of pain. Yours aren't muscle.
Right.
They've been tendon and nerve and joint.
Right.
And so it is good to know which one of the tissues is primarily responsible for your symptoms. And he has a really clean home plan. I honestly think you're doing very well. He's moving forward in a really good direction. Even before we started today, he said he's ready to be considered a weapon.
I want to be a weapon. That's my new goal.
That is such an interesting way I love being.
Yeah, it just sounds so cool to me. Just like, you walk into the gym and you're just a weapon. Like,
yeah,
people are going to look at you differently.
It'd be funny if you just get tased. You walk in, somebody just tases you, you're down.
But if you're a weapon, it might not take you down.
It doesn't even take you down. Wow.
Yeah.
That's Okay. I
Okay.
want to hear where that goes though. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but I guess the big piece, those are the two biggest mistakes. And the last one is exercise.
Like that's just generally like what you're physically capable of doing.
It is, and that one we've defined it when we've had some of our conversations in our beginning podcasts. It's been around the six functional movements that you can perform, that you can do all of them, and you have a like, and you feel good on them. But it's also strength, endurance, speed, and coordination as a base level. Like, where's that at? If you want to improve those variables, and there's a whole bunch of different ways that we can do that. So you can improve your overall amount that you're weight that you're lifting, or how fast you could do a 5K, or how long you can do single leg balance for with your eyes closed. Like, there's all these different metrics and tools that you can use to assess where you're at on it, and based off of what you need to do to perform at a high level, those are all metrics that you can increase and improve.
And as we've said many times before, the tissue capacity and your energy levels need to hopefully match your exercise capacity to be successful.
That is absolutely what we want. And what I would say, the people that I hope are listening to this podcast, you're typically gonna fail on the first two. Like, I think your limit, not fail is not the right word. Your limiter is going to be the first two. But when you get to that sweet spot where those are not your limit anymore, when you get to where it's exercise capacity, that's where you're getting those workouts where you can work out really hard. You can work out on something that you want to do, but you're like, man, I got more. I know I can do more. And that's like, that's where we want. We want you to be focused on getting a higher level of performance, but you have to address those other two first.
Well, I think being an aging athlete, it's one of those things that it's essentially taken me kind of 6 months to like learn this. I've heard you talk about it. I've, spoken with you about it many times, but now after 6 months and several injuries, I'm finally getting to a place where I'm understanding that like my wrist wasn't able to handle the amount of pressure I was putting on it either through workouts or through spiking volleyballs. My knees are not 20-year-old knees anymore. They're upper 30-year-old knees, and just takes them a little bit more time to recover. And if I do too much, they're going to be more sore. I'm going to get tendon injuries, etc. And so it's kind of that mismatch of what you think you can do, but what your body can actually handle, and that's kind of where you get trapped.
Don't you think a part of that is that you've worked a long time to build your exercise capacity? I think that's one. And the second one is that you don't recognize how hard your days actually are on your energy capacity and on your tissue capacity. Like, the amount of stresses that a working professional, or I mean any adult who's actually has responsibilities, the amount of stresses that we have in our life on our tissue capacity and energy capacity, I honestly think that we systematically do not appreciate how much stress we actually experience.
Yeah. And yeah, that's just an interesting thought that we didn't really talk about before, but kind of the end of my year just happened and a lot is going on. So it's usually a time where things are settling down, but for me, it's actually ending up ramping up, which is the opposite. So, like, I'd normally go into more of a less stressful work situation right now, is where it's kind of staying more consistent with the end of my year. And yeah, I guess I have noticed, so like, same thing. I'm still really tired at night, but I either wake up from snoring and walk past the bedroom and just I get to the gym and then I feel great once I get to the gym. So it's same thing that like I've just built the system to like get myself there, and then once I get myself there,
Yeah.
now I'm not breaking myself down and trying to squat 300 pounds. I'm just doing little baby exercises to try and get myself healthy so that I can play my sports some more.
Well, yeah, and the exercise capacity, I think the bigger issue is the making sure you have a system that gets you there, right? But even there, what you just said, I know from me and him texting, you almost had no free time in the last 2 weeks. You were like
Yeah.
the whole time
Go,
hammering.
go, go.
So, I,
Same for you, honestly. I
yeah,
mean, we've both been busy this last couple of weeks.
but isn't that interesting that you have this kind of knee thing that's kind of persisting, and often, honestly, it's probably because you've had increased tissue stresses that you probably don't even recognize, because they may be more like, you can have where you overload something, and it doesn't have to be rapid. Like, it doesn't have to be a jump for him. It could be positional that he holds for a few hours because he has to work on something. Or it could be that, I mean, it is so interesting how often we have workday activities that interact with our exercise. We call it an interaction, but it's so common. And that can be a thing that if you realize you have one of those, that's a tissue capacity limitation. That should
Hidden
limit that
trigger.
hidden trigger, man.
Yeah.
And they're so common. And when you have these like high stress work weeks, that doesn't happen in a vacuum. That affects your body, right? Like your body, like that is happening to your physical body. The tissue may have a reduced ability to handle what you're going to put through it, and those are big ones to monitor. And I think that's a big piece. So all of a sudden, a workout now that was feeling tolerable either hammers you and you feel like destroyed the next day from a fatigue standpoint, or you feel like achy the next day. It could be related to work. It may have nothing to do with the workouts you did. It may have been your work day.
Yeah. And I just randomly started favoring my knee like a week ago, and I'm what happened? Yeah. I mean, I know it was a little bit achy while I was doing my activities, but it's just, yeah,
It almost
kind of
seems
came out of nowhere.
well, and I think it also seems unwarranted. I always look for when you have a response that doesn't seem to match the level of work that you did. Those are perfect opportunities for you to go, okay, there's something here that I need to dig on. Okay, I don't deserve. I always think that's kind of funny to say, like, I don't deserve this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a good person. I don't deserve how I feel
Well,
right now.
and I mean, I've been doing the same like warm ups for 10 plus years that are all supposed to be, generally speaking, kind of preventative measures for having these type of injuries or body stresses. Yet I still get them.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
why I don't think you can prevent injuries.
yeah, prove it.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting into kind of some real world examples here.
You know what's funny? On Facebook, I had shared a podcast, and somebody roasted me and said that they feel like I've been targeting them with my podcast, which I thought was funny.
Which
I'm not going to mention any
you
names.
have specifically. You told me.
No, I didn't.
No.
Oh my god! I was like, you got me. But I told them that and being supportive, not calling anyone out.
Yeah.
But so these are none of these are real.
General.
These are general. None of these are real cases. And anybody who seems to fit this, I have seen quite a few of you individuals over the years. None of this is meant to be a real person. It's meant to be a
Why do they have names?
rep. I don't know why I did a name, but none of these are real people. Even if it closely this person's also they're gonna roast me again on Facebook. I know it. But anyway, so I'm gonna read it out and then we'll kind of break it down. So here's the first case study. Monica, breast cancer survivor, doing strength training again, light workout, not really hard at all. Everything felt smooth during the workout. And then about 2 days later, she feels smoked. She just crashed. Like she couldn't get out of bed, felt like she couldn't do any of the workouts, didn't do another workout the rest of the week.
And that's kind of the energy system crashing.
That's the energy
Even with
system
an
crash.
seemingly easy workout.
And that is, if we go back to the fatigue response level, you just want to track what it is and the severity of it. So you want a rating of fatigue, like how bad it is out of 10, 10 being really bad, really tired, can't get out of bed. One is no fatigue, you feel pretty normal.
Okay.
And if it's really high and it's a level, but it's still level 4, meaning that you feel it a few days later, you don't want that because it's debilitating. You can't do the activity, right? And you want to recognize what that tells you is that you cannot trust your response in the workout. Like you have to look at, oh man, I can actually feel really good in this workout. I have energy the whole way through, and the response is debilitating fatigue 2 to 3 days later. That's unacceptable, right? What you want is several workouts in a week, and you want that your body handles it really well. So in this type of situation, even though she felt good in the workout, you would have either the intensity or the time during the workout because the limiter is how hard you can work without having that debilitating response, even if it's 2 to 3 days later.
I'm kind of on the opposite side of that where I just want to continue to do more and more and more.
Yeah, fatigue's not your. Yeah, you have a great. Your energy system is almost your cause of issues.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
that is that one. What do you think about that? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that perceived exertion doesn't match what your body responds. Your body responds.
Okay. And then a tissue example.
Okay. Tissue example. Now, okay, college runner, great movement, looks good with doing it, feels great during the workout. but then at the end of the workout starts to feel a dull, aching pain in the hip.
Okay. Is that one like maybe the time that he's working out or
Could be a combo. That one, there was an interaction between his running and his lifting. And what we often see with tissue capacity, especially in people who have a high exercise capacity and their energy is really good, they will make excuses for why things start to feel bad. I just get tight. I just feel tight every time I lift, my muscles just get tight. No, this person had a raging L5S1 disc injury. And then what happened is over the course of several workouts, they got to the point where they started getting a muscle testing was testing weak, and they had a nerve root irritation that basically was stopping them from being able to use their calf normally. That referral was from their back that they were feeling in their hip, and they had warning signs, and they just kept hammering through it, and it rapidly devolved.
and this is basically because he did kind of a strength workout too close to running.
It was more that he was ignoring. He was able to ignore the clear symptoms.
Okay.
And so when we talk about tissue capacity, it may just be tightness, maybe what's perceived as, but if you systematically ignore that your tissue is not handling the load that you're putting through it, even though you feel great energy during it and the workout feels like it's right on the money, but your body feels like crap and it's constantly getting worse and worse, that is a tissue capacity issue. The idea of trying to push through training and hurting yourself makes no sense because the best performance games will always happen from long periods of uninterrupted training where you have good built-in recovery where your body can respond well to it. So you individuals who can exercise really well right now because your energy is great and your exercise capacity is really good, you have the biggest risk for destroying yourself recurrently. And it says the biggest issue: CrossFit, running, volleyball, any high level activity. And it's because your exercise capacity is just so much higher.
It sounds like you're calling people out specifically.
I
Are you
definitely
sure?
might have gone down the route of a specific person, but this is not the entire story. Is not with single person, but if that sounded similar to something that you're dealing with, it's meant with love.
Very nice. Okay. And then lastly, exercise capacity.
Yeah, this one to me, the biggest one with exercise capacity is once you get to this spot, it's you really want to cover your foundation, right? So this case study, retired firefighter, energy and tissues were great, movement quality was terrible, kept on making really basic movement mistakes, balance was terrible, and their endurance was really limited. And part of it was coming post op surgery, doing really well in the surgery. Surgery is no longer painful, no limitation. But they've just been forced to be inactive for a really long period of time. A lot of strength gains were lost. I mean, coming off surgery, that's a known issue, but it's fun to be in there, but also sometimes it can be depressing because it can feel like you're having to start over.
Yeah. I kind of dealt with that after kind of COVID and then trying to come back to volleyball. I think my energy was there. I think my tissue capacity was fine at the time because I didn't have any injuries because I wasn't really doing anything. But then trying to get back into the gym was just like,
Nightmare.
yeah, it was just like a real world realization. Like, man, I am not there strength wise, exercise capacity wise. And it took some time to rebuild.
With those situations, the idea is it's not going to happen overnight. And small, consistent gains with nice recoveries is where we want to stay. And those individuals, you don't have to develop a tissue capacity or energy capacity issue when you're coming back post surgery or post long rehab. You can stay in this like nice state. And it's more just really paying attention to your body and focusing on the areas where you have the biggest places to make gains.
Alrighty. So
Yeah.
that kind of covers all three. If somebody's kind of not tracking any of these things, how do you catch it?
What thing is limiting your training? I mean, and it's really quite simple. If you're getting hammered and feel super fatigued throughout the week, you're not making it through the week without feeling really, really tired. You have unexplained crashes. You feel like it's hard to get out of bed. Energy levels garbage. That's the place to start. If you hurt all the time, everything seems to cause pain. And every time you do a workout, you feel like you're sore for 3 to 4 or 5 days, and it makes you not do exercise. Tissue capacity.
So this is kind of like your 6-level system that we
Yeah,
talked about in the beginning,
you
where
got it.
I'm at a 5 because after a full week of workouts, I can't use my right leg.
Yeah, but also he could be a 1 because he hurt when he was jumping. But, we're not judging. This is a
I am the
supportive
whole scale.
we're a supportive environment.
On any injury scale, I'm all of it. If
Yeah.
it's an injury type scale, just sign me up. I'll
So,
check all the boxes.
I always think you wanna go after the lowest level, but, uh, it's just one of those things where it's like it's a tool. It's, like, really useful to think through what your actual response is. But then to me, it's exercise capacity. If you're not hurting, your energy's good, but you have this like motivation and you have this direction that you want to take your body and become performing at a high level, push your performance, as we say at PYP. Um, that's exercise capacity, and just really figuring out which of the three you are. I mean, take 10 seconds and think about it.
And it's going to
Yeah.
change. I mean, basically, just under a year ago, 11 months ago, broke my wrist, decided, like, okay, I've just gone from playing volleyball 3 to 4 days a week for my general exercise work. I'm going to get myself in the gym and try and get more athletic. I mean, I was a 1 or a 2 pretty much every day. Every day I'd come back like, I haven't used a hamstring curl machine ever. Let's see how much I can put on there. And then, yeah, the next morning it's like, oh, my legs won't unbend. This is going to be interesting to walk today. So yeah, you'll kind of build yourself, hopefully, like you said, wanting to be on the higher end of this scale where you can get through your daily workouts, but then maybe after a long, stressful week or maybe a couple nights of bad sleep, you might end up being sore a couple days later. But I think as you build your exercise capacity, you'll kind of move up on this
You
scale.
typically move up, and it's not so. Say you have like a level response that's low, like you have like a 1 or a 2. That doesn't mean you have to stop doing the exercise. It just means, okay, you may need to do some specific exercises after your workout or during your workout so that you tolerate the exercise that you're doing. It's just information that helps you direct some of the actions that you're going to take in the workouts, like we've discussed numerous times in other podcasts. So, for example, if one of your issues is that you cramp every single time that you do a bridge when you're working out, well, then you need to have a tool to make it so you don't cramp anymore when you're doing the bridge. It can be that simple, but anytime you have a limit to how your body's performing, you want to address it. You don't want to just ignore it or bury it.
Asking mostly for myself, how do you adjust for this? Like how do you fix it? I continue to be on this recovery roller coaster like we talked about a pod or two ago.
Well, honestly, I think you're doing. I do
I'm
continue to
slowly
think you're
doing
doing better.
better,
Yeah.
but
I honestly, from what you just said, one of the things that my brain immediately went to is we sometimes have people, they'll rate out how what their intensity of their week is. So Monday high, Tuesday low, Wednesday high, Thursday high. You don't want your whole week to be highs. You want to have natural recovery built in. And so if you know you have work days that are a little bit harder, you have some work days that are maybe a little bit lower, like not as intense. You may want to time your workouts to hit when it's best for the low days, or you might want to build it, make sure that you have recovery days. So there's like it helps you really analyze your week and look at it as a totality of what the actual stressors are, not just the actual workouts, which once again, as a working professional doing stuff on a daily basis, it's so easy for us to get in the mindset of it's just your workouts that actually stress your body, and it 100% isn't.
I definitely was not considering that.
Yeah.
So I'll try to, but I'll probably fail at that for the next 6 months and then figure it out.
Yeah. And it's a journey, man. No judgment, except for when we talk about Alex.
Oh, gosh. And yeah, from my experience, it's like rest isn't always the answer. Sometimes you just have to like change your focus and look at the other contributing factors.
That's a fantastic point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like we've talked about your stuff, I just think you have so many complications. When I think of through your things, like, yeah, we know a tissue capacity is a huge issue with you, but also it seems like the exercise that you do is a really big mental relief. I don't know if that it's a thing that you help
It's a de-stressor.
de-stressor. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not judging that. It's more say if our complete focus was man, we really want to build your tissue capacity, or we really want to push your performance and get after the exercise capacity, I think you have to get the tissue capacity under control because it's the biggest limiter. But at the same time, if we took away some of the stuff and really were really restrictive, I also don't think that would be healthy for you.
Well, and like I'm definitely not being fulfilled this week, but I've changed my focus to be like just knee and wrist rehab is all I'm working on for the next 2 weeks. Hopefully after this, what I think I've got 6 days left of my 2 week recovery period. And I would say I'm probably about 50% better than I was a week ago on both of those two items. But it's definitely not fulfilling in the gym.
Well, one of my strength coaches runs my program, and he has me on I have the best response to 2 weeks of working hard, 1 week off. And I would never have thought that was probably what my response would be.
That's such a small block periodization time. That's interesting.
Yeah. So if I do more than that, I get to a point fatigue wise and work wise that work becomes unenjoyable. And I'm unwilling to have I cannot handle being mentally tired at work. I don't enjoy it, and I'm unwilling to do it. It makes me crazy. And so he's been able to basically program in such a way that it's intense, 45-minute PAP workout. I can't remember what the hell that stands for, but he has a term for it. It's like a really good workout, but it's a lot of intensity, and then I basically recover, and then I do a few endurance workouts and boxing, and it's been like a really good mix, and I felt like really fresh, but I was actually struggling with energy for probably the last like 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just a different way of thinking about it. And once again, like building a system that matches what your goals are. And it sounds like you've done that for yourself.
Yeah. With a good coach. Yeah. Good coach. Thanks, Kenny.
I'm not there yet, but it's all right. My system is working for what I'm getting out of it, as we've said many times.
Yeah.
Anything else to note here for today?
I think that's a great place to stop. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for listening. If you want help applying this model to your own situation, let us know. PasturePrime.com. You can catch us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Please follow, share. PYP, baby.
PYP, baby.
Peace.